Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at In the Palm of Your Hand. In the Palm of Your Hand is a game in which you're splitting into teams and doing memories based on touch. Now don't worry, this is not a touchy-feely game in the sense of your hand touches my hand. Instead, you're going to be using objects and touching someone else's hand. Does that make it better? I don't know. Let's see. In this game, we have several objects. There is a top, a block, a cloth, a pawn, a rubber dart, a ring, some Velcro, some cubes, little plastic cubes, a metal coin, and a string. Everyone's going to be split into teams of two. You can play with a team of 3, and usually it's split into 2 teams, but if you play with 6 or 8, you can have 3 or 4 teams. Each team is going to be given a hand of 6 cards that are showing different art pieces here. Now, before we go any farther, I want to talk a little bit about the art in this game. These are Dixit-style cards, the same as in the Dixit games, but these are not Dixit. These are much more specific types of art. They're not like necessarily silly, and in fact, if you put all the cards in numerical order, they show you the life of a character who always wears this blue and white shirt. As he's older, and this is card number 1, as he's a baby. I find that kind of interesting. That story doesn't necessarily pertain to the game, but each card is to be taken on its own. So what's going to happen in this game is one team's going to go first, and that team has the grandfather. And so the grandfather is going to close their eyes. And the other person on the team is going to be the child. The child's going to turn over a card from the deck. And then the grandfather is going to hold out their hand, and the child's going to do things to their hand with the objects. You may never touch the hand of the person. You may not draw or write words on it. What you're trying to do is to simulate this picture here. So maybe if it was me for this picture, which shows a firecracker going off, I might press this against the person and then pull it off and drop some cubes on it to show that a firework went off. And then maybe, wipe this cloth across it to show rushing air. So you're going to do this with 2 cards. So maybe the next card here shows a desk, and I'm like, So on this one, it shows someone typing. So maybe I'll put these on the person's hand, the cubes, and then type on them, pressing up against the hand. There's a little Russian doll there, pencil. Maybe I'll spin the top or something. So everyone else is watching you do this, and every time you do a card, you're going to be doing 2 of them. Each other player is going to pick a card from their hand and throw that into the mix. So once everybody has done this, then you'll add cards from the deck if you need to, so that there are 8 cards out there in total. And then grandfather opens their eyes. And grandfather now is trying to guess the cards in order. So they'll say, okay, the first card, and they look at them and they're like, oh, this is definitely the first card. Yay, we get a point. Then the grandfather says, I think the second card was this one. No, but Jules and Sally, that was their card, so they get a point. And that's basically the game. You're just going to play through several rounds of that, and whoever has the most points at the end of them is the winner. Okay, so in the palm of your hand is a very specific thing. On one hand, there's a lot I like about this. So the Dixit style cards, I mentioned this, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a game called Dixit. There's also Mysterium. There's Muse. There's Detective Club. Oneironauts. There are so many of these games that have these weird, funky cards that look like they are the fevered dreams of a madman, and everyone likes those cards. This looks like those cards, but these are much more specific, a story, a specific point in someone's life. I like that switch. I think that switch works for here, and I was just interested. I want to know more about this person's life, and there was a serene feel to it that I enjoyed. The game itself, again, this is one of those games that by me giving you the description, you know if you'll like it or not, having things touch your hand or not. I'm okay with it. This is a 6 out of 10 for me, because the concept of the game is fine, but it really depends on creativity. There's another little deck of cards in here where you can say some objects can't be used, or
They put some restrictions to make it harder. But we already found it pretty hard. The game was like, they give you, like, here's how to do a guitar. Wrap the string around the person's fingers, then strum it with a coin. That's all well and good, but there's always going to be some sort of disconnect. Like, you're like, what are they doing? When you feel it, you feel various things, and sometimes it's pretty obvious of the cards. But again, your opponent teams are trying to put a card in, they think that matches what the person did. So it's not always easy. It's just that my concern is, while this is an amusing game, I think that this is the type of game that everyone goes, oh, that's amusing, but I'm not sure they're going to ask to play again. I like the concept, but it almost feels like maybe one step of a bigger party game. There's a lot of party games that have various things, and this feels like one of them, fleshed out into a full game. And again, that's not necessarily a bad idea, and this actually may be up some people's wheelhouse. And when I played it with my family, everyone seemed to have a good time checking it out. But it just felt to me like, okay, I feel it, and sometimes it just felt so vague. And I like games maybe sometimes where the clues are a little more detailed. There's vagaries of clues and touching, and sometimes you look at a card and you go, how am I supposed to use the objects to make that card? Which can add a little bit of frustration. This is a funny game to watch. You can watch someone and they're putting the objects on and everyone else is kind of snickering. But then when it comes down to the grandfather, it can be frustrating as you look at those 8 cards and go, I haven't a clue. But then you could even still guess correctly and get a point. So, yeah, it's there. It's interesting. I think that this will be a forgotten game in a few years. But if you saw that and thought that looks like a lot of fun, well, then you already know you like it. So that's in the palm of your hand. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time.